what is the resources, what are the resources required for? First, as you have rightly said, there is dwindling loans, grants, or even ODA funds, or even international financial markets, the cost of sovereign bonds. All these are problematic. So essentially, you are having a fiscal gap. How do you finance your development? So essentially, the argument is that government needs to provide public investments that are complementary to private investments. But where does the government get funds if it doesn't have enough? So it can mobilize resources domestically. How can it do that? One is through taxation. But we have shown that taxation, tax base is low. So essentially, the tax effort is low. And I showed the East African case where the target for East Africa is to get to a tax revenue to GDP of 25%, that is what we call the tax effort. But so far, except Kenya, which is around 21, 22%, all the other African countries are not yet even close to 20%. So you can see. So essentially, that route for mobilizing domestic resources through taxation is going to be a very difficult one. It's like, but it is an interesting one because it's like everybody is talking about crowdfunding. Crowdfunding, it's like crowdfunding, but essentially it takes a long time because it takes a fiscal year. So the second revenue mobilization tool that we can use is actually government having an active bond market. And bonds most countries have a yield curve, so it means that we can actually manage to do that. And we have seen Kenyan cases that they have come up with even different types of bonds and different maturities. And they have attracted pension funds, they have attracted insurance. And you can see that if you are active and very successful with the bond market, then it means that it would be a very good tool for domestic resource mobilization. So there are so many other aspects here.
Now, that's very interesting. Talking of taxation in the region, the tax stakeholders in the region had recently met in Kigali to talk about harmonization of tax policies in the region. Yeah. So what do you think, what are your perspective on the right policies that will drive this ambition?
You see, when we talk about regional issues, it is because we don't want double taxation. And you can see countries have come together and maybe come up with agreements so that they eliminate double taxation. That's why they meet. But at the other side, the East African case is also very peculiar because East African countries compare notes, even the budgets, their budget cycles, their budget policies, their finance bill, there is a lot of uniformity. That uniformity is very, very important. It is the point that I made today that tax can also be seen as an incentive. If you want to use the tax system as an incentive for producers, it means that you can also harmonize across the region because today the emphasis by President Kagame was trade. Integration is a must. We have to trade with each other. But then you have to trade with each other because you have uniformity of policies, you have uniformity of taxation. And that is very, very critical. That's why that regionally they will meet, first of all, to solve any binding constraints on taxation. Secondly, to uniform taxation so that you reduce double taxation. And thirdly, make sure that taxes are also an incentive to producers.
Fantastic. Now, we would like to get your thoughts on one of the recommendations that we made today about formalizing how some
things, the argument, the discussion was very interesting today on formalizing informal sector because President Obasanjo, former president of Nigeria, argued that why do you want to formalize them? Who asked you to formalize them? But on the other hand, we believe that they are a very, very strong sector. One of the things, for me, I wouldn't say formalizing. First of all, is to understand why are they informal in the first place. In Kenya, I have argued that we have an electronic payment system, that is the M-Pesa, Airtel Money, U-Money, all these, what we call M-Pesa is an embodiment of all electronic, mobile money payments. They transcend across informal sector. What is really happening is that we are seeing informal sector formalizing itself through formal payments because you can now see the payments are formal. They are formalizing themselves because they are now borrowing using the mobile phone, isn't it? They could not do that. Before that, we used to say, look, the informal sector needs to have a corporate identity. So it means they need to be formalized so that they can go to a bank and borrow. Now, they are borrowing through the mobile phone. So slowly you can see that those are small steps, but very, very important steps in terms of formalizing the informal sector. But on the other hand, if we wanted to speed up the formalization of the informal sector, we need to create services for them. Utilities are costly. The informal sector, because of their smallness, they can migrate to where businesses are active and profitable. They can migrate. But they live in a very hostile condition, conditioned by infrastructure, utilities cost. And then that's why they are informal, because they run away from formal costs, isn't it? They are fixed costs. They run away from fixed costs. But others are not running away from fixed costs. They are not running away from taxation. It is because formalization is costly. So for me, I would like to say, let's move in small steps of saying, what do the informal sector need? Why are they informal? Then how do we attract them through services? And mobile phone financial services, and even virtual savings account, virtual credit supply, especially the Kenyan case, the Tanzanian case, and even here in Rwanda and Uganda, we have seen virtual savings products, more cash in Uganda and Rwanda. We have seen Empower in Tanzania. We have seen M-Shwari in Kenya, KCB M-Pesa. So all those products, they have encouraged, they only require, they are easy to use, they are accessible. So that's the first point. So then the next point is to say, what kind of services would make them even be incentivized to be formal? So those are very important debates that we really need to adhere.